Hi, this is Wes Bartosik from the Concord Carpenter Tool Lab crew, and it is a beautiful sunny Labor Day weekend here in Connecticut. And it is the end of summer and fall is coming, which means that it's going to be heating season soon, whether we like it or not. Now, if you're a firewood guy, that means you've probably already had the itch for a while and you're probably trying to get things squared away for the heating season. But I have the distinct privilege of introducing to you a new product from Hud-son Forestry Equipment, and this is the HWB box wedge splitter from Hud-son. Now, this is a new design that's new to market for them. It is the first of its kind. This is a departure from some of their traditional professional grade splitters in that you see here it features an I-beam construction. It also has a standard hydraulic log lift that you see on the side here. But what really separates this from the rest of the Hud-son line is this box wedge splitter design. Now, the box wedge is unique in the way that it actually splits the wood and creates perfect uniform pieces. We're going to discuss that a little bit later and demonstrate it for you, but really excited to have the opportunity to debut this and talk a little bit more about it. Kind of some standard features we see on here is a 5-inch hydraulic piston pump and a 23 horsepower Vanguard engine. This features a 23 gallon per minute pump and generates a true 25 tons of splitting force. Now, 25 tons may not sound a lot, may not sound like as much as you see on some of the box store designs, but don't believe the marketing hype. Sometimes you have to look more at how the system works as a whole to determine whether or not it actually can generate the amount of splitting force you need. And after you see this thing in action, I think you're going to understand how this thing has more than enough power for the majority of firewood needs. So now that we've moved the box wedge splitter to our work area, it's time to set it up. One of the things I love about this so far is the fact that it is so easily portable. The HDH6 is a monster of a machine. The HDH5 is also a monster too. This is a much more nimble, easy to move piece of equipment because it doesn't have that big trough, because it doesn't have that massive hydraulic 6-way adjustable wedge assembly. It is much more compact and easy to move. You can move this with a garden tractor, a quad, even a small side-by-side, versus those bigger pieces of equipment. You're going to need a large tractor, you're going to need a truck, or you're going to need a really big, maybe side-by-side to be able to move that. This is a compact design that's easy and portable. I can also manhandle this a little bit if I need to try and move it or adjust it when I finally come to my setup area. One of the things I love about Hud-son is that they think of the pro user and how they can make the user more efficient and productive. And one thing that's great about their design is I am able, when my leg stand is down here and my splitter is in position, I can remove my tongue, my trailer tongue here, so that now I can walk completely around the perimeter of the splitter, frees up my work area, makes it easier for me, and also ensures that I'm not going to whack my shin on this while I'm walking around trying to pick up splits. That's a huge bonus and a huge perk. So why is the box wedge good? You've heard me talk about it a bunch of times now, but really what is it that separates this from, more traditional cross type or, claw type 4, 6, or even 2-way wedges? Well, the box wedge creates uniform pieces of firewood. If you take a look at these sticks here that are coming out of the wedge from some of the video footage we've shown already, these are almost perfect squares on the ends. Because the box wedge is a series of these square cutouts. And almost like a deli slicer, the machine is feeding the round through this box wedge to spew out perfect pieces or near perfect pieces. And that makes that a smaller piece like this that's more uniform is going to stack easier, dry faster, and also is going to be more appealing to a potentially wider range of customers, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. Imagine a deli slicer slicing off some pastrami for you for your sandwich. Well, that's what it's doing with the firewood round here. I can put a much, much larger round, an ugly round that ordinarily I wouldn't want to be splitting, in this open area here, and the wedge does the rest. It self-feeds it for me, comes back, and spits out my pieces here on the end. And these almost roughly 4x4 grids here are going to give me a nice clean stick of firewood. Now, that separates the box wedge design from a lot of the other Hud-son machines because you're limited in what size piece you can fit in the trough. You're also more versatile than maybe a dedicated firewood processor. Firewood processors like nice, straight, consistent rounds or sticks of log length sticks that are of roughly the same diameter, under 20 inches usually. This doesn't care. I can put big nasty pieces in here, whatever I have, and still spit out a nice clean uniform piece of wood. Now this is also Hud-son's first modular wedge design. Now I have the box wedge on this machine right now, but this whole assembly here, the push arm or the traction arm, can come off of the push plate here on the wedge. And then I can take with a couple of bolts, remove the box wedge. Hud-son now offers a single knife design wedge. So for a traditional, two split around in half and then resplit as needed. And also a 4-way wedge. There isn't anything more, like there's no 6-way wedge option yet, but it's something that they're working on. But if you don't like the box, you can go for a single knife or a 4-way wedge design instead. Or you could collect the whole set. Right now, the box wedge is what I have the opportunity to try out from Hud-son, and I'm blown away by it. I am super impressed with it. I'm super impressed with the productivity that it's capable of, but also the fact that it takes an otherwise pretty nasty round, like these dirty, gnarly maple rounds that have been out here for probably too long, and is giving me nice, clean, consistent sticks of firewood. If you're going to try and split this round by hand or with a traditional splitter, you're going to end up with some wonky looking pieces, but this is almost a perfect stick of firewood I have here. Now this is the Hud-son HWB. This is a splitter that we've covered previously on our channel. And while this might be the biggest and the baddest that Hud-son makes, it's a different philosophy of split. For instance, you see here this V-trough design that Hud-son is kind of famous for, that allows a round to drop in and be centered automatically as the ram pushes it through the wedge. This particular HWB has a 6-way hydraulic adjustable wedge. Now, this is great for breaking up big pieces, but you're also limited in the size of piece that you can put in here and get consistent splits without having to constantly resplit. Another problem with a big 6-way wedge like this is you make big chunks of firewood. Those big chunks are great for older style stoves, outdoor wood boilers and things like that, but it's not always what a homeowner might be looking for, or for a fire pit, or for, if you have a new modern style stove. So the piece of firewood that comes out of a box wedge, like on the Hud-son HWB, is going to be more desirable for a larger range of users. Now, when you think of traditional, the old images, the time classic images of firewood burning, you think of massive cast iron stoves that you could throw whole trees in and let them burn all night. And that was the case for a long time. For instance, here in Connecticut, All-Nighter made the Moe's series of stoves here in our state, which were a huge, huge hit of wood burners. And we had them as kids, and you could throw anything in there and they would take anything, and you could load them up and they would sit and simmer and burn all night. Well, that's not the case anymore. Modern stoves, like this Quadrifire Discovery 3, require smaller pieces and much more compact, tight fireboxes like you see here. This is on the larger side for modern stoves, but still, I don't have a ton of space in here to stack my wood to get a full burn. So let's take a look at this piece here. This large piece of oak came through the 6-way wedge of a Hud-son HWB. And you can see this is a big piece. It's not exactly uniform. You can see the round of the outer bark area and then the triangular portion here where it went through the 6-way wedge. This is a big piece of wood. I would probably split this at least one more time if I was going to burn this in my own stove. Or if I was going to throw pieces in like this to load the firebox, I wouldn't be able to fit as many. Versus this piece here that just came through the box wedge of the HWB we were using outside. You can see this is a much smaller, more uniform piece. Now, old school firewood guys are probably screaming at the screen right now saying, oh man, you're not going to get as much burn time, it's not as efficient. Well, if I can fit more of these pieces, these more uniform pieces, into this firebox and stack them more tightly, I'm going to get just as much burn time and just as much heat and just as much efficiency as if I'm burning these big monsters. Another thing to remember too, though, is that a lot of homeowners now, a lot of young homeowners, a lot of maybe not as mechanically savvy individuals are burning wood as an alternative to other fuel sources, or they're having fire pits outside. They may not be able to handle a piece this big. Maybe it's an older person that doesn't have the dexterity and strength to hold a piece this big, versus they can handle something like this. This is easier for them to toss in their fire pit when they're outside with their families. Or this is easier for them to load into a stove like you see here. So firewood is an opportunity for you to maybe make some money in your spare time. You could sell wood, you could make bundles like you see at gas stations all over the place. And when you have smaller, more uniform pieces like this that came out of the HWB, it's going to be easier for you to package them, handle them, and they're going to be more desirable to a wider range of users. Versus if I had an outdoor wood boiler, I would be fine with all my pieces being this size. But this works better for me. We call them, people refer to these as candlesticks. Well, these little candlestick pieces work a lot better for me and a lot other users out there that might be interested in potentially buying firewood that you could make with a splitter like the HWB. So the type of wood that you have access to, and more importantly, can get consistently and for free, if not cheaply enough, is going to be really important in determining what kind of splitter is best for you. Now, the box wedge on the HWB is perfect for what you see behind me right now. This is what we call tree service wood. This is wood that some arborist has that they need to get rid of because they cut it off of somebody's property for any number of reasons. A lot of times they're looking to just offload this stuff. I have a couple of guys local to me that know that I'll take loads of tree length wood no matter what the size. And because I'm not very picky, I have a really good, consistent, steady supply of wood. But that means I have to deal with some big monsters like you see here. This big maple round has been sitting here because I really just haven't had the time or the desire to even try and lift it. With a piece of wood this size, normally I have a date with Mr. Mall. I'm going to need to use a tool like this to bust this down into quarters, or I'm going to have to get my chainsaw out to noodle it into quarters so I can fit it in a traditional style splitter, regardless of whether or not I have a hydraulic log lift. But with the HWB, I have the combination of the log lift and the box wedge design. So I can take this big round, roll it over to the splitter, save my back, have the hydraulic log lift pick it up for me, and then feed it, and then the box wedge feeds it through the wedge. I don't have to worry about breaking this down further. It saves me time, it saves me energy, it saves me potential fatigue-based injuries and things like that, and it makes my life a lot easier, and I can produce firewood faster. Now, there's nothing wrong with swinging them all. In fact, it's really good for those stressful days when you get home and you just need to work through some frustrations. But at the same time, if I'm trying to produce wood for the sake of producing wood, or I need it because I need to heat my home, or I'm trying to make enough bundles maybe to sell because I have a holiday weekend coming up, then the HWB is going to make that process easier, make my life easier, and more importantly, it's going to make me money faster. So you can see here in my wood pile, I have a lot of rectangular splits like this that are perfect, that can go right into my rack for drying for firewood, for either campfire purposes or wood stove purposes, fireplace, whatever it is that you're trying to whatever your target market is. But you do see a lot of extra pieces like this. Now, all of this waste product that you see here, we call this the trash. So this is your trash pile. In addition to your nice pieces of firewood that you can use for heating or for campfire enjoyment, whatever it is, you get a lot of junk. Well, what's nice about that is that all these small pieces are incredible for kindling, for fire starting. So a good business model would be if you sell wood by the bundle, by the truckload, whatever the case might be, you can bundle up or put in a burlap bag or an old potato bag or something like that, small pieces like this, and give them to your customers as a fire starting kindling. I have a giant tote bin that I will fill with pieces like this to get my fires going, so then I can feed in my pieces that are more uniform like this for heating with. So one man's trash is literally another man's treasure in this particular case. So to demonstrate the performance of this splitter, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the camera up for a time-lapse video showing how long it takes me to split the rounds that I have staged here to fill up this IBC tote. Now, these IBC tote cages are a really popular way of storing firewood because it contains them and allows airflow and sun to get to it to allow the wood to dry faster, but also it's more durable than pallets and other forms of stacking, but it does require usually some sort of mechanized assistance to move them around. Now, the large IBC tote that you see here is roughly 1/3 of a cord of firewood. Cord is the unit of measurement that we refer to with firewood. Roughly 128 cubic feet is one cord, or imagine a 4x8 area, 4 foot tall, perfectly stacked with no gaps is one cord. So 1/3 of that is from Connecticut. We call that a face cord, but they call it different things in other areas of the country. But it's a good unit of measurement, and this is a good test to demonstrate.
Part of our review on the Hud-son wood splitter with Wes in the tool lab was to time how quickly it would take to split and stack a third cord of wood. The total time, just 21 minutes and 27 seconds. This was with one person operating the splitter, one person feeding the rounds into the machine, and the third person stacking the pieces into the IBC tote. The crew worked quickly and efficiently, putting up a really impressive time. This demonstrates that the Hud-son wood splitter can split roughly a full cord of firewood in an hour. Given its portability, versatility, that level of production, it really stands out to our testing crew. Overall, the Hud-son wood splitter, it's rugged, versatile, and a highly capable splitter. Our crew was particularly impressed by the box wedge design and the overall build quality of this machine. The craftsmanship that comes with American-made Hud-son forestry equipment, it's just evident throughout, and we saw it when working with it. One feature that really caught our attention is the inclusion of auxiliary hydraulic lines right behind the factory-designed power and hydraulic conveyor system. A conveyor can save a lot of time and effort when you're stacking large amounts of firewood. Would say probably the only downside we encountered is that the HWB generates a significant amount of waste. This is clearly visible in our video, especially if you're, filling the IBC totes. You'll see these small pieces. While some waste can be repurposed as kindling, the majority is just scrap, and you just need to deal with it, clean it up, and toss it away. This is definitely a consideration for anybody looking to purchase a machine like this, but it's important to note that this is a common issue with box wedge splitters in general, not just the Hud-son model. A machine of this caliber is not going to come cheap. You're going to see an MSRP around $9,700, $9,795, something like that. However, it's a solid investment, and the HWB will pay for itself quickly. Just check out your local Facebook marketplace to see what a cord of wood is going for in your area, and you'll see what we're talking about. Or you can check out the price of firewood bundles at a nearby campground, for that matter. The HWV can produce perfectly sized, desirable pieces of firewood at a fast rate, which means you can turn out a product that's ready to sell very quickly. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you're interested in this machine or any other Hud-son equipment, visit their website. They've got a list of dealers ready to get you splitting in no time. Take care.